Thank you.
So we'll be moving over to the next rapid fire presentation here. We're going to be traveling to Nicaragua and looking at the water education project and the Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partnership. And participating in this presentation is the Patrick Goggin, Claudia Tolino, and also, lost my notes here, Kristen Schmidt. So I think we can jump right into it. And again, make sure you guys put any questions on either Aaron's presentation or the current presentation into the Q&A tab.
How's it looking on there, Derek? Can everyone see the PowerPoint okay?
We can see it.
Cool beans. Well, thanks for the opportunity to share this new beginning, a new collaboration between Nicaragua and Wisconsin around water that's piggybacking on an actual very old collaboration, something called the Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partners, that have been housed out of the UW-Stevens Point and working between Wisconsin and Nicaragua for over 50 years. And we heard in our lake trivia that some lakes are volcanically created. Well, you're looking at one here with Lake Nicaragua. We're going to spend a little time just sharing with you this background on Wisconsin-Nicaragua, a little on the origin story of how this project came to be. We'll talk about what we're going to monitor within the water education project, why we will monitor it, and why it's important to our communities both here in Wisconsin and in Nicaragua. And then we'll share at the end how you can join in on this project in some shape, way, or form, should you want to do so. I'm happy to say I'm joined by two colleagues today. Claudia Tolino is down in Nicaragua. Hola, Claudia. Thank you for joining us. She has a couple decades of background, hello, in water quality monitoring as a specialist in Nicaragua, and she is going to help be a project coordinator for this project. And Kristen Schmidt is a climate change adaptation scientist and specialist who works out of the UP, who did graduate work down in Nicaragua and fell in love with it, much as I did when I traveled there, and joins us to help shepherd this project along. Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partners has been around for quite a while, as I said earlier, over 5 decades of work bringing together people from our two parts of the world, Wisconsin and Nicaraguans, to come together to solve the challenges that face Nicaragua as a country. And these relationships have been going on for decades. And it's really a neat partnership. And you see the website listed there, and encourage you to learn more about this partnership if you want to at their website. But basically the idea is working together, we can make a difference on the different challenges facing the Nicaraguan communities. This project itself, in terms of working around water in the big lake of Lake Nicaragua, started through a farmer-to-farmer program that's part of our US AID development program with the United States. And what that program does is send specialists around the world to help support communities and topics and areas they're working on. In this case, it was trying to think about how a nation might go about setting up a water quality monitoring and education program from the ground up. And they were interested in learning about the model we have with our Wisconsin Lakes Partnership and our water action volunteers in terms of how those entities help support water quality work in a large region. And so that trip took place in 2013. And really, it just was an opportunity for me to learn about the way water is worked on in the country, and also to think about ideas of how we could kickstart a community program from the ground up, maybe working in partnership with the Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partners. This is a water-rich country. This is a map of all different wetlands and water resources spread throughout the country of Nicaragua. And you also see the map symbolizes some of those watersheds spread throughout the country. So incredibly rich diversity, incredibly rich from a wildlife and habitat point of view, but also just the way it supports everyday life in the country of Nicaragua. So we have a lot in common between Wisconsin and Nicaragua. This is a water-rich place. What we will do, I think this is still me, right, Claudia?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Thank
I
you,
lost my
Pat.
notes as to who's talking on what slide. So I'm going to have to ask my partners to jump in when it's your slide turn. What we're going to do is establish a community water monitoring project. The idea here is there really hasn't been a ton of water quality monitoring work done since the 80s, when some of the government entities that were doing that work had to stop. And so the idea is to use some of the same approaches we have here of using community members, citizens, to help with lake and riverside monitoring activities, collecting insects, doing Secchi disc readings, doing chemistry and or pH measurements. These are some of the metrics we look to embark on moving forward this water education project. And during the process of those kind of field visits and walking around water, it's also an opportunity to talk about the challenges that come with stewardship of water, whether it's egg or pesticide pollution. The same challenges we have here, nutrients making their ways into waterways and causing challenges, invasive species, trying to deal with the apathy people might have about the quality and health of water. These are the same kinds of challenges Nicaraguans face when trying to communicate about water. I think it's Claudia's turn.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, we think of opportunity to work together in 4 segments of the society and government entities, not for profit, local community, for example, teacher, educator, farmer, or tourist, and then losing sector, for example, pesticide, chemical industries, and big agriculture, hotel, hotel resort, and anyway. Next one. Next part. Okay. Where Tipitapa River is the most important river in Managua. Tipitapa serves as a bride in Lake Solotlan and Lake Cocibolca. Along the river, there are several rural communities which carry out all-day activity. And the river is in the case San Juan de Tipitapa. In this place, in this community, located at 9 kilometers from Tipitapa city. In another place, important community is La Bocana, or exit of Lake Solotlan. Yes, we will be into program at Learning Center, Nicaragua, Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partners. And Tipitapa recently moved because the hurricane Dimash. And we think that Tipitapa Learning Center as a home base for the project. And next one, please, Pat. It's your Pat. It's for you.
So why this project? A couple of reasons. We're talking about the 19th largest freshwater lake in the world. Pretty cool, and just that reason alone. Cocibroca, which means sweet sea, is a gem in terms of biological diversity. I'll go through a couple of slides showing some of those endemic resources in a second. It's a major drinking water resource for the people of Central America. And as I said earlier, really since the mid 80s, there hasn't been a ton of, if any, monitoring efforts on the water. Just due to economic conditions and other situations, it's just been a real challenge. And we know from recent UNICEF and World Health Organization work that as much as 16% of the nation has unacceptable levels of sanitary risk when it comes to that drinking water. And it's up to even 50% at the medium to high risk. And so much like our wells here in Wisconsin, you have to take care of that water and that drinking water source. And we've had some challenges in Nicaragua around the condition of that drinking water. And so part of what this project looks to do is just use the tool of collecting data over time to have a baseline and to use it as a pool of information to strategize and look at how to move forward with better protecting these resources. You see some of the fast facts there for this lake. It gets as deep as 85 feet, a huge water body and surface area, and just an incredible resource to the region. Here's some examples of the cichlids and other fish species that are endemic resources to this water body. Some of these are important protein sources for local folks there in Nicaragua. Here's an example of some other of the beautiful resources here. Things like the garfish and paddlefish, the freshwater shark and crocodile. These are all parts of what you can bump into, perhaps unwillingly, when you're moving around Lake Nicaragua. Some cool bird and reptile or amphibian species as well. These are some of the local birds and a turtle and lobster to throw into the mix. Claudia, I think we're back to you.
No, it's from Kristen.
Oh, Kristen, please. Thank you. I told you I lost my notes. Go ahead.
No worries. Y'all get a three-part presentation today. As you can all see, Pat and Claudia are really the heavy hitters behind this project, but I have a great personal interest in Nicaragua and some of the environmental challenges that country is trying to solve. So I'm jumping in here for a few slides. What we'd really like to do with this project is make sure that we monitor 2 times a month, and that will be community-led monitoring in those communities that Claudia talked about near the river Tipitapa to start with. There's also a series of educational videos that were produced by University of Wisconsin. Many of those have been translated into Spanish, and we hope that those will serve as good tools to train people up on monitoring metrics and methods. And then going along with that, we expect that there will be opportunities for talks in the community on different subjects related to ecology, related to water quality. The person you see in the middle picture here is a university student who is interested in helping out on this project. So we might have some interesting opportunities here for university students to present on topics of interest to the community. And I will kick it on to, I believe, Claudia. Claudia, you're on mute.
Okay, we decide to start the project by monitoring 4 parameters, physical, chemical, and 2 parameter biologics. And the physical, chemical, there are transparency, pH, temperature, dissolved oxygen. We know that dissolved oxygen was a great impact on the development and of aquatic life and the process that occur in the environment. That is the import of monitoring. Between the variables, we are going to monitoring aquatic macroinvertebrates, aquatic plant, microphyte, macroinvertebrate. You can use it in indicator of water quality. And in aquatic plant is the very important for the community because there are a lot of aquatic microphyte in the river, along the river. Is a big problem for the community, for fishery and transportation and tourists. Okay. Next one, please. Pat.
Yeah, so right now I'm working towards, behind me in the office here, I have some of this equipment starting to be assembled. We're getting to the point where we have 3 sets of the 5 pieces of equipment you kind of see listed here. Secchi discs for clarity, pH meter or some kind of meter to get after some of the chemistry, a DO meter if we can find it, and then aquascopes and aquatic insect collection type tools. We're trying to work to have 3 sets of each of these types of equipment to have start with 3 groups who can monitor at once, and perhaps 3 locations around the Tipitapa area. And so we're almost to the point where we have 3 sets of equipment for starting with those 3 sites. But that's where we're moving in that direction for a rollout of this work starting this June once we get the equipment down in late May and early June. Piggybacking again on the Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partnership, one of the cool things that's happened over the decades is through the USAID and other programming, we can lean on government resources to ship all sorts of useful equipment, as well as other things that the Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partnership does on so many fronts, from everything from burn clothing to sewing machines for small business development to beekeeping and small agricultural type activities, you name it, all sorts of things make their way to Nicaragua and are shipped down there. So the goal is to have these 5 metrics begin to be part of what we monitor starting in June.
Okay. The community is member of San Juan de Tipitapa are very, very friendly people. But about the level of environmental community caught my attention is and how much they know about ecology and environmental. She is Maria Auxiliadora Avilés. She and her sister Clementina Avilés have a long working on environmental projects and there are activity member of the community. I interviewed Maria Auxiliadora and she told me that she is very interested in the project because she will learn more about water because they only know that the water is there and is only as water, but with the project we learn more about the water issue and water of disponibility and importance. Next one. And Don Herman worked with another 48 men for 5 days to eliminate 10 kilometers of aquatic microfish. Don Herman say that the community fisherman, he has participated in different activity of environmental, he's a member too. And he said that the project is very, very important and will be benefit all the community. And he is very interested in participating in this project. Next one. Next. Okay, the community along the river of Tipitapa have activity participation in different projects. Projects that we can use leverage to achieve the goal in water education and outreach. Next.
I just wanted to interject before the next slide. We are going to piggyback these projects in this rollout using a learning center that's part of the Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partnership, as was mentioned. These learning centers, there's dozens of them that have been developed between Nicaragua and Wisconsin through this partnership. And they serve as a home base for workshops, community work, learning, educational outreach, and so on. And so we're very fortunate to have that foundation to build off of as we go forward with this project. Okay, thank you. And we have a wish list. We still could use some of those. If you have a still working conductivity or DO meter that you could pass on to us, we would love to get our hands on that. If you have the manual that goes with it, even better. Even simple things like life jackets for both child and adults. We're also looking for an LCD projector such that we can use the computers and that projector to have presentations at the Learning Center. And also financial support, which we'll talk about at the very end. But if you have an item like you see listed here in the pictures to donate, perhaps you can contact me directly via email and we can see about working together to arrange a pickup or drop off for those items. And we appreciate you just even thinking about helping us in that regard. So the community outreach and project setup is kind of ongoing. We're getting our legs under us as that learning center had a transition because of hurricane damage to a new building location in Tipitapa. That is happening as we speak. We will start the fundraising here today with equipment and project costs and look to have that equipment delivery going down through the Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partnership either in May or June, depending on the rhythm of how that works. And then look to work with Claudia to begin the monitoring twice a month, as we talked about, and this summer, perhaps as early as June, depending on how the equipment gets down there. And we'll come back next spring and give some feedback back at this convention and let folks know where things are at. Kristen.
Yes, so as Pat mentioned, we are in the period where we are collecting funds for this project to fund things like transportation of community members to the sampling sites and all kinds of things. And so if you would like to help us with this project or help support it financially, I will put the donation link in the chat. But what you can do is visit the Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partners donation page, and then you can specify Water Education Partnership as the project that you want your donation to go to. So we would appreciate any and all contributions in that regard.
Indeed, we would. And I think this is a good time for us to take any questions folks might have.
All right, we're just at the end of our time, but we'll squeeze in a couple of questions here. There was a question about the hydrological assessment availability. Anders and Aaron have addressed that in the chat box. So if you go from the Q&A, switch over to chat, they address some of that. Otherwise, I would contact them directly through there. And then there's a question about the web page, and you guys just hit on that one, showing the web page for the Nicaragua, Wisconsin project. A question about land spreading. Do they have the same issues with land spreading getting into the water, specific to human waste, but also
in terms of manure? I take it.
It's particular to human waste, but I would throw manure in there too, just for the sake of the question.
Well, I can tell you for sure on the cattle front, beef and the beef industry is a huge and very major market in Nicaragua, and beef consumption is a big deal. So I think challenges around agricultural runoff would exist there. I would have to yield to Claudia or Kristen about the idea of the other kinds of runoff.
Yes, I would ask Claudia about this one, but I believe that human waste also would be a problem, especially with one of the major Nicaragua lakes being so close to major urban center, Managua. Claudia, la pregunta es sobre, bueno, si hay un problema con residuos humanos en el lago. Oh, Claudia, you're on mute again.
Sí. Hay un problema, como dije, las aguas residuales van al lago de Managua, pasan primero por una planta de tratamiento y luego al lago. Sé que hay monitoreo de esta agua, pero los datos no son públicos. Entonces no podemos saber si las plantas funcionan o no funcionan en cuanto a aguas residuales. Y basura, hay mucha basura que llega al lago también, en puntos específicos de la ciudad de Managua.
I apologize in advance for, I'm not a Spanish translator. Claudia and I know each other and understand each other okay, but the basic answer there is a water treatment plant that handles most of the wastewater from Managua, but there's no public data available about water quality in the lake. So nobody knows whether this is working as intended. And there's a big problem with trash coming into the lakes and the river near Tipitapa.
And I would share latrinas are a big challenge too. So spot toilets, at the home front can be interfacing with groundwater, and if not properly managed, can be a challenge. And I know Wisconsin-Nicaragua Partnership's already worked on that issue over time. But we're probably coming up against our time here, eh, Derek?
We're at a little bit past time, so we'll stop here, and our next session starts at 11. So select that. Again, we have a lot of knowledge here amongst all the presenters in this short time, so feel free to reach out to them directly.